The endless void of space stretched before Marcus Chen's viewport as he guided his salvage vessel through the darkness of the Kuiper Belt. The ship, which he had personally modified with experimental engines, hummed softly beneath his feet. Despite being alone in the vast emptiness of space, Marcus felt at peace. This was where he belonged. Running diagnostic check on long-range sensors, he muttered to himself, a habit he had developed during his 3 years of solo missions. The computer screens around him displayed a constant stream of data, monitoring everything from radiation levels to gravitational anomalies. Earth Control's voice crackled through his communication system. Salvage Vessel Echo 7. This is Earth Control. You're approaching the outer boundary of authorized space. Please confirm your status. Marcus smiled as he responded. Earth Control. This is Echo 7. Just running some tests on the new sensor array. Everything's working perfectly out here. That's when he heard it. A faint signal cutting through the usual static of space. At first, he thought it was just interference, but as he adjusted his communications array, the pattern became clearer. It wasn't random noise. It was a distress call, but unlike anything he had ever heard before. The signal pulsed with an odd rhythm, almost musical in its complexity. Marcus's heart raced as he realized what this might mean. After years of humanity wondering if they were alone in the universe, could this be it? Earth Control, he called, trying to keep his voice steady. I'm picking up an unusual signal. It appears to be a distress call, but it's not following any known human protocols. There was a long pause before Earth Control responded. Echo 7. Analysis suggests potential non-human origin. Standing orders require you to maintain distance and wait for military escort. Do not approach the source. Repeat, do not approach. Marcus stared at his sensor readings. The signal was growing weaker by the minute. Whatever was out there, they were running out of time. He thought about the countless stories he had read about first contact scenarios, about humanity's dream of reaching the stars. But more than that, he thought about someone out there, possibly dying, waiting for help that might never come. Earth Control, he said firmly, the signal is failing. By the time military support arrives, it'll be too late. I'm going to investigate. Negative, Echo 7. This is a direct order to stand down. Marcus took a deep breath and made his decision. With practiced movements, he engaged his experimental engines and turned his ship toward the signal source. The communication system erupted with protests from Earth Control, but he had already made up his mind. After 20 minutes of careful navigation, he saw it. A ship, but unlike any he had ever seen before. It seemed to shimmer like a soap bubble in space, its hull made of materials that appeared to change color as he approached. The vessel was clearly damaged, with what looked like weapon scoring along one side. My God, he whispered, maneuvering his ship closer. The alien vessel was about twice the size of his salvage ship, but portions of it were dark and lifeless. His sensors indicated that life support systems were failing. Marcus docked his ship with practiced precision, his hand steady despite the gravity of the situation. As he secured his spacesuit and prepared for boarding, he couldn't help but smile. This was either going to be the greatest moment in human history or his last act of reckless heroism. The airlock cycled, and he stepped into the unknown, his helmet lights illuminating the crystalline corridors of the alien ship. That's when he saw her. An unconscious figure floating in the zero gravity, her skin shimmering with an inner light, her features both alien and beautiful. Marcus knew at that moment that nothing in his life would ever be the same again. Marcus worked quickly to move the unconscious alien to his ship's medical bay. His heart was beating fast, but his hands remained steady as he carefully placed her on the examination table. The ship's basic medical scanner hummed as it tried to make sense of her unusual biology. "Please don't die," he muttered, watching the strange patterns of light pulse beneath her translucent skin. "I have no idea how to explain this to Earth Control." After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, the alien's eyes fluttered open. Marcus gasped. Her eyes were like swirling galaxies, deep purple with spots of light that seemed to dance and move. She sat up suddenly, speaking in a musical language he couldn't understand. "Easy there," Marcus said softly, holding up his hands to show he meant no harm. "You're safe now. I'm Marcus. I found your ship." The alien tilted her head, studying him with those remarkable eyes. Then she reached out and touched a device on her wrist. A soft blue light surrounded her for a moment. "Your language is simple to decode," she said, her voice carrying an odd echo. "I am Lyra, research scientist of the Crystallics. And you?" She paused, looking around his medical bay with a mixture of curiosity and what seemed like amusement. "Are human." Marcus nodded, trying to hide his excitement. "That's right. I picked up your distress signal. Your ship was badly damaged." "Primitive," Lyra interrupted, running her fingers along his medical scanner. "All of this technology is so basic. How did you even detect my signal?" "The Crystallics High Council insists humans are centuries away from such capabilities." Marcus couldn't help but feel slightly offended. "Well, this primitive technology just saved your life. And I built most of these systems myself." Lyra's expression changed, her crystalline features softening. "You modified this vessel alone?" She stood up, wobbling slightly as she adjusted to the artificial gravity. "Fascinating. Our research suggests humans lack the collective consciousness needed for advanced engineering, yet you work independently." "We tend to do our best work that way," Marcus replied, steadying her with a gentle hand on her arm. He noticed her skin felt cool to the touch, like smooth glass. "Want to tell me what happened to your ship?" Lyra's face darkened, the lights under her skin dimming. "Pirates. They attacked without warning. My crew." She paused, touching her temple. "They survived. They escaped in our auxiliary craft when the pirates attacked. But they left me behind." "They what?" Marcus couldn't hide his shock. "Why would they abandon you?" "The Crystallics operate on consensus. The group decided the risk of rescue was too high. Their decision was logical." Her voice was calm, but Marcus noticed her hands trembling slightly. "Logical," he said, anger creeping into his voice. "There's nothing logical about leaving someone to die." Lyra studied him with renewed interest. "You disapprove, yet you risked your life to save a complete stranger. An alien, no less. Why?" "Because it was the right thing to do," Marcus said simply. "No one deserves to be left behind." The alien was quiet for a long moment, the lights beneath her skin pulsing in an irregular pattern. "The High Council warns that human emotions make your species dangerous and unpredictable. Yet your emotional response saved my life." She looked around the medical bay again, but this time with something like respect. "Perhaps we have much to learn from each other, Marcus of Earth." Before Marcus could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The computer's voice rang out. "Warning. Multiple vessels approaching. Weapon signatures detected." Lyra's face paled, the lights under her skin almost going dark. "They found me," she whispered. "The pirates. They're coming back." Marcus rushed to the bridge, Lyra close behind him. "Well," he said, sliding into the pilot's seat, "time to show you what else this primitive ship can do." Marcus's hands flew across the control panel as three sleek, predatory-looking ships appeared on his view screen. They were black as space itself, making them hard to track against the star-filled background. Lyra leaned over his shoulder, her crystalline features reflecting the red warning lights of his console. "Those are Shadow Claw vessels," she said, her voice tight with fear. "Their technology far surpasses your ship's capabilities. We need to surrender." Marcus gave her a quick grin. "Never tell a human the odds. Besides, they don't know what this primitive ship can do." The lead pirate ship fired a warning shot that blazed past their port side. A harsh voice crackled through their communication system. "Crystallics researcher, surrender the quantum key, or we will destroy your vessel and the primitive human protecting you." quantum key?" Marcus asked, already programming an escape route through the nearby asteroid field. Lyra touched a small crystal pendant hanging around her neck. It contains advanced encryption technology. With it, they could intercept and decode all Crystallix communications. My people would be vulnerable to attack. Then they're not getting it, Marcus said firmly. He pushed his engines to full power, and his modified ship shot forward, leaving a trail of plasma in their wake. The pirates followed, their superior ships quickly gaining ground. Energy weapons flashed around them, but Marcus's irregular flight pattern made them hard to hit. He weaved between asteroids, using the space rocks as cover. "Impossible," Lyra muttered, watching him pilot. "Your reflexes shouldn't be fast enough for this kind of maneuvering." "You'd be surprised what humans can do under pressure," Marcus replied, his eyes fixed on the asteroid field ahead. "Hold on tight." He dove into a particularly dense cluster of asteroids, rolling his ship sideways to slip through a narrow gap. Two of the pirate ships followed, while the third tried to circle around to cut them off. Lyra gripped her seat as the ship shuddered. "They're charging their main weapons. One direct hit will." "Not today," Marcus interrupted. He hit a button on his console, releasing a cloud of metallic debris behind them. Salvage scrap he'd been collecting. The pirates' energy weapons hit the cloud, and the metal particles scattered their beams in all directions. "That's actually quite clever," Lyra admitted, watching the pirates struggle to get a clear shot. Marcus grinned again. Sometimes the simplest solutions work best. "Now, watch this." He cut his main engine suddenly, letting their momentum carry them forward while powering up his experimental magnetic pulse system, something he'd developed for pulling in salvage. Instead, he reversed its polarity and aimed at a massive asteroid ahead of them. The pulse fired, pushing against the asteroid's metallic core. Their ship slingshot around it at tremendous speed, while the sudden gravitational shift sent several smaller asteroids tumbling toward their pursuers. The pirates scattered to avoid the unexpected asteroid shower. In the chaos, Marcus fired up his engines again and shot through a gap in the field that only his salvager's experienced eye had spotted. By the time the pirates regrouped, Marcus had already plotted a course toward a nearby nebula where their sensors would be useless. "We're not safe yet," Lyra said, though there was newfound respect in her voice. "They'll find us again." "Probably," Marcus agreed, finally letting himself relax slightly. "But now we have time to plan. And maybe you can explain why these pirates want your quantum key so badly." Lyra's expression grew serious, the lights under her skin pulsing slowly. "The key is only part of it. What they really want." She hesitated, looking at Marcus with worry in her galaxy-like eyes. "Is the location of Earth." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "Why Earth?" "Because," Lyra said quietly, "your world has something the pirates want even more than Crystallix technology. Humanity's greatest strength, though you don't even realize it yet." Before Marcus could ask what she meant, new alarms started blaring. The pirates had found them sooner than expected, and this time, they weren't alone. With temporary safety inside the dense nebula, Marcus set his ship on minimal power to avoid detection. The swirling purple and blue gases outside the viewport created strange shadows in the cabin. He found Lyra in the ship's small kitchen area, staring with fascination at a cup of hot coffee he had made earlier. "This liquid," she said, touching the warm mug carefully. "You consume it for energy." "Mostly for enjoyment," Marcus replied, making another cup for himself. "Though the energy boost helps. Would you like to try it?" Lyra's eyes sparkled with curiosity. She lifted the cup to her lips and took a small sip. Her face lit up literally, the patterns beneath her skin glowing brighter. "It's bitter, but pleasant. We Crystallix never developed the habit of consuming for pleasure. Our nutrition is purely functional." "That sounds boring," Marcus said, sitting down across from her. "No favorite foods? No special meals with friends?" "Friends?" Lyra tilted her head. We have collective connections, shared consciousness, but individual bonds like friendship. She paused, looking down at her coffee. Such things are considered primitive, inefficient. Marcus watched as she took another sip of coffee, clearly enjoying it despite her people's beliefs. Is that why your crew left you behind? Because individual lives are less important than collective efficiency. The lights under Lyra's skin dimmed slightly. Our way has helped us survive for millennia. The group's survival always comes before the individual's. She looked up at him. But you risked everything to save one person you didn't even know. Why? Because every life matters, Marcus said simply. He reached into a storage compartment and pulled out something wrapped in foil. Here, try this with your coffee. It's chocolate. Lyra unwrapped the bar carefully, her eyes widening at the sweet smell. As she tasted it, the patterns beneath her skin began to dance with new colors. This is extraordinary. We have nothing like this. You know what's really extraordinary? Marcus said, smiling at her reaction. Music. Computer. Play something classical. Mozart, maybe. The soft strains of a piano concerto filled the cabin. Lyra froze, her galaxy-like eyes growing wider. These patterns of sound, they serve no practical purpose, yet. She closed her eyes, swaying slightly. It creates feelings I cannot explain. That's what makes us human, Marcus said softly. We find beauty in impractical things. We value experiences, emotions, connections. Perhaps that is what the pirates truly want, Lyra whispered, opening her eyes. Not just Earth's location, but humanity's spark. Your ability to think independently, to create, to feel so deeply. She touched her quantum key pendant. Our technology is advanced, but your species has something we've lost, or maybe never had. A comfortable silence fell between them as they listened to the music, occasionally broken by Lyra asking questions about human culture. She was fascinated by the concept of dancing, amazed by the idea of art, and completely captivated by Marcus's stories about Earth's oceans, forests, and cities. Your world sounds beautiful, she said finally. So full of life and variety. The Crystallix worlds are perfectly ordered. But, she hesitated, then admitted, sometimes I felt alone there, different, because I questioned things others accepted without thought. Marcus reached across the table and gently took her hand. Her skin was cool and smooth, but he felt a slight warmth growing where they touched. Being different isn't a bad thing, Lyra. It's what makes life interesting. The moment was interrupted by a sudden alert from his ship's computer. Warning. Multiple ships detected entering the nebula. Crystallix signatures identified. Lyra pulled her hand away, her expression troubled. My people have found us, and they won't understand any of this. She looked at Marcus with worry. They'll think you kidnapped me. They'll never believe I chose to stay. The Crystallix ships surrounded Marcus's vessel, their crystal-like hulls glowing with power. His small salvage ship looked tiny compared to their massive vessels. Through the viewport, Marcus could see their ships shimmering like diamonds in space. They're hailing us, Marcus said, looking at Lyra for guidance. She nodded, her face serious. Let me speak to them. I can explain everything. Her hand touched his arm briefly. Trust me. The main screen lit up, showing 3 Crystallix elders. They looked similar to Lyra, but their skin patterns were more rigid, more controlled. Their eyes lacked the warmth that Marcus had come to appreciate in Lyra's. Research scientist Lyra, the central elder spoke, his voice cold. You have violated numerous protocols by engaging with a primitive species. Return to us immediately. Honored elders, Lyra said, standing straight. This human, Marcus Chen, saved my life when our own people abandoned me. He protected the quantum key from pirates. He deserves our gratitude, not our contempt. The elders exchanged looks. Very well, the central figure said. Dock with our main vessel. We will discuss this matter properly. Marcus didn't like their tone, but they had little choice. He carefully guided his ship into the massive docking bay of the Crystallix vessel. As they walked down his ship's ramp, he noticed dozens of crystal-skinned guards surrounding them. "This way," one of the guards said, leading them to a large chamber filled with advanced technology Marcus could hardly comprehend. The three elders were waiting for them. They studied Marcus like he was an interesting insect. "The human will be contained for study," the central elder announced. "His knowledge of our species presents a security risk." "What?" Lyra stepped forward. "No, he saved me. He protected our secrets. And now he knows too much," the elder replied coldly. "The collective has decided." Guards moved toward Marcus, their weapons raised. But before they could reach him, Lyra did something that shocked everyone. She grabbed Marcus's hand and pulled him behind her. "I reject the collective's decision," she announced, her voice ringing through the chamber. The lights under her skin were pulsing with intense colors no one had seen before. The elders actually took a step back, their faces showing shock. "Impossible," one whispered. "No Crystallix has ever rejected the collective." "Then I'll be the first," Lyra said firmly. She turned to Marcus, speaking quickly. "The maintenance shaft behind us. It leads to the emergency pods. Run." Marcus didn't hesitate. As Lyra created a distraction by overloading a nearby console with her quantum key's energy, they sprinted for the shaft. Alarms blared throughout the ship as they climbed through maintenance tunnels. "I can't believe you did that," Marcus said as they ran. "You defied your entire species for me. You taught me that sometimes one person's choice matters more than the collective's wisdom," Lyra replied, her eyes glowing with determination. "You showed me there's more to life than just following orders." They reached the emergency pod bay, but guards were already there. Marcus looked around desperately, then spotted a panel on the wall. "Your people might be advanced," he said with a grin, "but some things are universal." He smashed the panel, triggering the fire suppression system. The crystalline guard sensors were overwhelmed by the sudden spray of suppressant chemicals, giving Marcus and Lyra the chance to reach a pod. As they launched into space, they could see the massive Crystallix ship preparing pursuit. "They'll follow us," Lyra said, looking worried. "I've never heard of anyone leaving the collective. They'll consider me contaminated by human ideas." Marcus took her hand, feeling its cool smoothness against his skin. "Then we'll face them together. You taught me something too, Lyra. Sometimes the most advanced technology in the universe can't compare to having someone brave enough to stand beside you." Suddenly, their pod sensors began blaring. The pirates had returned, trapping them between two enemies. But for the first time, neither Marcus nor Lyra felt afraid. They had something stronger than advanced technology or collective wisdom. They had each other. Marcus and Lyra found themselves in an impossible situation. Behind them, the massive Crystallix ship loomed like an angry diamond in space. Ahead, 3 Shadowclaw pirate vessels moved in for the kill. Their tiny escape pod floated between these powerful enemies, seeming as helpless as a leaf in a storm. 7 ships, all of them more advanced than anything humanity has built, Marcus muttered, studying the pod's simple control panel. "Any ideas?" Lyra's fingers danced across the pod systems. "The Crystallix will not fire on us, while I have the quantum key. They fear damaging it. The pirates, however, want both the key and Earth's location," Marcus finished. Then his eyes lit up with an idea. "Wait, what if we could get them to fight each other?" Before Lyra could respond, the pirates' leader appeared on their small view screen. "Surrender now," he growled, his dark-scaled face filling the screen. "The human knows Earth's location. The Crystallix have the key. We will have both." The Crystallix elders' transmission cut in next, their voices cold with anger. "Return our wayward daughter and the primitive human. The collective demands it." Marcus smiled, a plan forming in his mind. "Your pod's transmitter. Can you make it match a Crystallix signal?" Lyra's eyes widened as she understood. "Yes, But, Marcus, that's brilliant. Her fingers flew across the controls, reprogramming their communication system. Time for some good old-fashioned human deception, Marcus said. He activated the modified transmitter, sending a message that appeared to come from the Crystallix ship. The message, aimed at the pirates, claimed they were preparing to destroy the pod to protect their secrets. The pirates reacted exactly as Marcus hoped. They opened fire on the Crystallix ship, their weapons blazing through space. The Crystallix, caught off guard by the sudden attack, had to redirect their attention to defending themselves. Now for part 2, Marcus said, turning to the pod's engine controls. Lyra, remember how I used the magnetic pulse on the asteroids? Can your key power something similar, but bigger? Lyra pulled out her quantum key, its crystal surface glowing with energy. The key's power source. Yes, it could create a massive energy pulse, but it would burn out the key forever. Better burned out than in their hands, Marcus said softly. But it's your choice. Lyra looked at the key, then at Marcus. Without hesitation, she opened the key's crystal housing and connected it to the pod systems. Together, she asked. Together, he agreed, taking her free hand. As the battle raged around them, they channeled the quantum key's power through the pod systems. The energy built up, making the small craft shudder. At exactly the right moment, Marcus triggered the pulse. A wave of quantum energy exploded outward from their pod. It caught both the pirate ships and the Crystallix vessel in its field. The energy wave interfered with their advanced systems, freezing their weapons, scrambling their sensors, and disrupting their engines. Now, Marcus shouted, firing up the pod's simple chemical thrusters, the only technology basic enough to still work after the pulse. They shot forward, past the disabled ships, into open space. Behind them, the pirates and Crystallix could only watch as their prey escaped. Their advanced technology, temporarily crippled by the quantum pulse, was useless against such a simple solution. We did it, Lyra whispered, watching the ships fade into the distance. The lights under her skin were pulsing with joy and excitement. We actually did it. Marcus grinned, setting course for Earth. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. Your people's technology was too complex to work after the pulse, but these basic thrusters. He patted the pod's console fondly. I understand now, Lyra said, looking at him with her galaxy-like eyes. This is humanity's true strength. Not your technology, but your ability to think differently, to find unexpected solutions. She moved closer to him, to know when to hold on and when to let go. The burned-out quantum key floated forgotten in its housing as Earth's solar system appeared ahead of them. But neither Marcus nor Lyra was looking at it. They had found something far more valuable than any advanced technology. They had found each other. 1 month after their daring escape, Marcus stood nervously in front of Earth's United Space Council. Beside him, Lyra's crystalline skin sparkled under the council chamber's bright lights. The room was packed with scientists, military officers, and government officials, all eager to see Earth's first official alien visitor. So let me get this straight, the council president said, looking at her notes. You not only discovered alien life while on a routine salvage mission, but you also managed to prevent an interstellar war and establish first contact with 2 advanced species. Yes, ma'am, Marcus replied, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Though I'd say Lyra did most of the hard work. Lyra stepped forward, her galaxy-like eyes scanning the room. Honorable Council, I come before you not just as a former Crystallix researcher, but as someone who has learned the true value of humanity. She touched a simple necklace she wore, made from the housing of the burned-out quantum key, now just a pretty crystal. My people thought themselves superior because of their advanced technology and collective consciousness. The pirates sought to steal what they thought made others strong, but they both missed what truly makes humanity special. The council chamber was silent, hanging on her every word. Even the usually chatty reporters were quiet. Humans are different, Lyra continued, the patterns under her skin pulsing gently. Where we crystallics seek perfect order, humans find strength in chaos. Where we depend on technology, humans rely on creativity. Where we follow the collective, humans listen to their hearts. She reached out and took Marcus's hand, causing a murmur of surprise through the chamber. I chose to stay on Earth not just for scientific research, but because humans showed me a better way to live. You value each person's unique thoughts. You find joy in simple things like coffee and music. You help strangers without expecting rewards. The council president leaned forward. And what of your people? The pirates. Should Earth be concerned about future attacks? Marcus answered this one. The quantum pulse didn't just disable their ships. It showed both sides that depending too much on advanced technology can be a weakness. They're now both requesting diplomatic talks with Earth. It's true, Lyra added. The Crystallix Collective has voted to open formal relations with Earth, and several of my people have even requested permission to visit, to learn about human culture. It seems I'm not the only one who was curious about emotions and individual choices. The council chambers erupted in excited discussion. As the president called for order, Marcus looked at Lyra and whispered, "Nervous?" She squeezed his hand, her skin cooling his palm. About helping humanity meet the wider galaxy? No, her eyes sparkled. About trying pizza for the first time later? Very. Marcus laughed softly. Just wait until you try ice cream. The president's voice cut through their private moment. Mr. Chen, Ms. Lyra, the council has decided. You will both serve as Earth's first ambassadors to the Crystallix people, and we approve Ms. Lyra's request for permanent residence on Earth. The chamber filled with applause. As reporters rushed forward with questions, Marcus and Lyra shared a quiet look. They had come so far from that first distress call in deep space. Ready for our next adventure? Marcus asked. Lyra's skin glowed with happiness. With you. Always, though perhaps we can get through this press conference before we save the galaxy again. Marcus pulled her close, not caring about the cameras or the gasps from the council members. I love you, he said simply. I know, Lyra replied, her crystal features softening into a smile. You humans taught me what that means, and I love you too. As they faced the excited crowd together, they knew this was just the beginning. They had not only bridged the gap between their species, but shown the galaxy that sometimes the strongest technology isn't technology at all. It's the power of the human heart.